Hello there. Turn on your brain cells. I need your help on a serious issue. Let's go into my office and talk for a second. I'm in the process of writing a book, an instruction manual if you want, on how to increase your IQ by 20 or more points in 3 to 4 months. But I have a writer's block, triggered by two questions. First, what title shall I use? And second, in which form do I present it? What language level do I use, given the fact that it is meant for the average reader? Your feedback is highly appreciated. But first, let me give you some background. In the mid to late 60s, I was researching and lecturing at the Frankfurt Institute für Planungstechnik, INPLAN for short, a privately funded think tank in Germany. INPLAN was concentrating on highly specialized secondary education for middle and top managers of the industry. One of the projects, funded mostly by pharmaceutical companies, was the retrieval of relevant data under information overload conditions. My report was entitled Cognitive Resolution and Synapses. Remember, at the time we didn't have Google, and the most popular computer, let me show you, was the IBM 360, a machine that filled a room and was able to read 80 character tweets from punch cards. Its Model 30 had 64 kilobytes of memory. Holy macro. I later lovingly compared it to the RadioShack TRS-80, which also had 64 kilobytes of memory. Anyway, after I had analyzed the business processes of Europe's third largest printing machine manufacturer, a notorious money loser, I needed somebody to write my report, never mind reading it. I selected a cute girl from the accounting department who had a high school diploma. I later even hired her at INPLAN. In the context of the pharma job, I used her as a test subject, tested her IQ, which was about 102, and exposed her to massive, intellectually challenging overload conditions. After 4 months of exposure to challenging stimuli, we retested her. Now her IQ was 120. That result compelled me to run similar trials on a variety of test subjects, always with the same outcome. That was surprising because the prevailing opinion of researchers at the time was that the IQ is a fixed measure dependent on genetic factors alone. My test results were confirmed by Siegfried Lehl of the University of Erlangen in Germany in the 80s, I believe, who ran IQ tests at admission of patients in hospitals and repeated them in weekly intervals and found that the human IQ lowers in the absence of intellectual challenges. Read his book. Only to be restored when re-exposed to intellectual stimuli. Even in the late 80s, when I discussed the IQ increase with a psychologist in Germany, he suggested that genetic factors played a role. Indeed, it took over 30 years before intelligence researchers finally accepted that the human IQ is the result of environmental factors, variable in nature and dependent on intellectual challenges. Today I believe that the answer to that phenomenon lays in the brain's plasticity, the ability to adapt to any challenge, including injury. You may want to go to YouTube and search for Discovery Brain Plasticity, which will get you to a most amazing clip about a young girl that had half of her brain removed. She recovered virtually entirely, her left brain half having taken over all functions her right half used to perform. Now, having said that, the method I teach to increase the IQ consists of exposing the child or adult to massive, challenging information under overload conditions. Let's say have him or her read, for example, medical literature he or she has never read before and which he or she does not understand. For about 6 weeks, most of the content will be Chinese. At some point, however, suddenly, everything will fall into place, and after about week 8 or so, he or she will be able to hold his or her own in a discussion with experts. It never fails. And unlike back in the 60s and 70s, we no longer have to sit for days in the library. Most information is available through Google or otherwise available on the internet. I tell you, Google has become my external memory. Now, if you are interested in intelligence research, Google brain plasticity. On another related issue, for many years it was a given fact that you lose brain cells as you age, affecting your memory. While that may be so, today we know that exposing yourself to new knowledge causes your brain to aggressively activate new brain cells. In other words, your exposure to ever new knowledge, to stimuli, will keep you intellectually active into old age. Finally, let me say something about mental illnesses. Our complacent medical community has shrugged off as incurable. Hogwash. I firmly believe that we can or will be able to treat any, and I mean any, brain abnormality. However, we will need to do more research, something much cheaper than the cost of healthcare for the afflicted. Now, please, think about the form of treating the IQ issue in my book and let me know. Any comment is appreciated. Thanks for watching. Take care.